All right, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. We'll try and project as much as we can. Our apologies, the mics aren't working 100% yet, but at the next event they will, so you have to come next time. But my name's Gail Powley, very pleased to welcome you all here. Technology Alberta is very proud to be co-hosting this event with Run With It, our featured entrepreneur who actually came to us to say, we want to do something special for the community. So with that in mind, how could anyone say no? And so with that, not only do I want to introduce Run With It, but I also want to say thank you to the Edmonton Region, who provided some funding to Run With It for this event. So with that, everyone please help me welcome Myrna Bittner of Run With It.
Thank you, everybody, and I'll try to make sure that my voice persists throughout the evening. I'm told there's some mic up at the top. Can you hear me up there okay? They can't hear? No. Okay, I'm not quite sure what, is there, there's no mic. Okay, well maybe if you can't hear, if there's room that you can move down, I'll try to yell as much as possible. If anybody exists in this building and they happen to have a karaoke machine in their office, if you would run up and grab it, I'd love it, because this is going to be a long kind of program for me to run yelling to you all. But welcome, Edmonton. I'd really like to start off with, I think, an important acknowledgement on behalf of RUNWITHIT Synthetics. We acknowledge Treaty 6 territory and the many peoples, knowledge keepers and elders who live in and care for these sacred lands, those with us today, those that entered into Treaty 6, and those who lived here long before contact. This is the land. This land is the current and ancestral territory of the Dakota, Lakota, Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Siouxsie, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Regions 2, 3, and 4, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We make this acknowledgement as we move forward together on this journey towards Waketawaswin, and that is the Cree word for reconciliation, and there's some profound meanings that we have yet to discover in that word. If you're here this afternoon or this evening for this, you're in the right place. We're really excited about the opportunity to be here and participate with Technology Alberta, and Gail, and the Gale Force Winds, we call it, who has inspired this and helped make it happen. ERIN, the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network, that's operated by Edmonton Unlimited. And we're really excited to also be here as partners with the United Way, as well as with the Aztec Awards. I think, Gail, do you have some introductions that you would like to do, or should I go forward from here? Okay, well, we'll start. Being an innovator in this community is a profound privilege. We also see innovation in my business as being really intersectional. We use intersectional in all of our decorating and the interconnections. And we are all trying to work as innovators towards making better futures that leave no one behind. As a part of that, I would like to welcome the CEO, Rob Yeager of Edmonton United Way. You may have noticed when you registered there was a donation link on that website, and that's really meant to inspire you to participate in not only making these great programs happen and available, but also to participate in the community that we're trying to build. So Rob, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Well, I am just, like all of you, thrilled to be here to recognize some of the great innovation that's happening in our community, that RWI Synthetics is leading the transformative work that's happening in our community at the hands of Myrna and team here. And so it's a real honor and a privilege to be partnered with RWI. You know, our work in community is to make sure that we leave no one behind. And that's difficult and challenging work and requires partners. It requires partners from across this great community of ours to help make that work happen, because it's not one institution or one individual or a level of government or a company that can solve this on their own. It really does take all of us working together, and that's why it is just such a thrill and a privilege to be working with organizations like RUNWITHIT that are helping us get underneath key challenges and problems that we have in this community that all of us want to work together to solve. So not only are we being highlighted here tonight, and we're very grateful for that, tomorrow's a hackathon. And RUNWITHIT is hosting a hackathon to help us get underneath some key issues in our community related to kids in our community that are struggling. And our initiative, All In for Youth, is really targeted to help families and children and youth get a better start on life and you know, get underneath some of the challenges that are there. RWI is going to help us tell that story, and for that we are just incredibly grateful. So thank you to you, Myrna and team, for helping us with that, and thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks, Rob. And one of the programs that we learned about today and that we'll be looking at in our hackathon is called All In for Youth. And we had a group of our team that actually got to go and visit a school and really kind of dig deep into what that program is all about and the incredible potential and long-term impact of those programs in our community for those youth and their families. I wanted to just let you know the run of the program tonight is we've kind of broken up the RUNWITHIT Synthetics part into 3 portions. So 3 chapters, we're calling them. I'll talk for 10 minutes, and I'm relying on somebody to kind of flag me for those 10 minutes. And then we'll do 5-minute Q&A, and then on to the next chapter and 5-minute Q&A. And so forth, and then we've got a little bit of a program at the end as well that Gail will take over, and because my voice will likely give out by then. But anyways, I'll step forward into that. If anybody from our RUNWITHIT team, if you have questions after the event, they're all here. So this is our team week. We've flown them all in. Anybody wearing a t-shirt, you know, like this, feel free to bug them and pester them. A bunch of them are brand new, so they might have to defer some questions, but an incredible group, and really happy to represent them on the mic here today. So I'll start with chapter 1. We get a lot of questions about what do you do? You know, what is it? I think I understand it, maybe I don't, and so I really wanted to give you guys kind of some insight into the disruption that we're bringing as a team. And we call it convergence or thinking synthetically. Part of that is kind of, you know, you begin to see bubblings of it, you know, here today. We're converging. We're bringing together really diverse groups, students, industry, government services with really diverse sponsors and innovative community sponsors like ERIN, funded by Alberta Innovates and operated by Edmonton Unlimited, Technology Alberta, the Aztec Awards, and even this building management that donated the space here tonight, EPIC. But really, this is kind of the fundamentals of what it's taken to get here, is also convergence, a convergence of organizations that have believed in us, that have trusted in us, that have supported with us, that have encouraged us, that have given us a little kick every now and again. And the list is vast, and I think there are, you know, a bunch of you wave if you're part of these organizations that are here, so you'll see them sprinkled throughout, and couldn't do it without that. So there's a convergence there. There's also a really unique thing that happened in Edmonton a little while ago, so just last year, that was initiated by Edmonton Global. So an investment impact group that, whether you know them or not, are dedicated and devoted and absolutely flogging the future of this city and trying to make it happen and trying to represent Edmonton internationally and make sure that we have the investment and success and innovation and new industry and companies. And they said, you know what? We really need a synthetic Edmonton. We know, Myrna, that your company is creating synthetic cities around the world, and we need to see ourselves synthetically because we're lacking that insight and that data. And they, along with partners from the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Development Board, and there's 12 others that are just fantastic partners, post-secondary institutes and government innovation groups, got together and said, make it happen. And so we'll be talking tonight throughout about the synthetic Edmonton region. 14 municipal districts that have been completely synthesized and are now available for people to use to look at and generate data from future scenarios. This is why we exist. So Run With It kind of looked at problems starting in the early days around digital systems, and some of you are here from those early days. But really about that it's not just about digital systems that are facing unprecedented futures, it's about all of us. So tomorrows are very different than yesterday's. We've all come through a phenomenal time of change, and it's not stopping. The pace is accelerating, the earth is changing, the populations are growing, and there's some really urgent need to solve those things in the most efficient way, in the most impactful way. And so we need tools to think differently. We haven't been, for the last 150 years, the best future thinkers. And so we need to have different mechanisms than we do today to think boldly and to innovate boldly our futures and make the most of the investments. So we created basically a sim city, except for real capability. It's a deep tech platform that I don't talk about much, but it forms the basis of us being able to create and generate synthetic cities out of any city in the world very rapidly, and dial forward scenarios for all different kinds of sectors and look at all of their interconnects with impacts and outcomes. This is the fundamentals of what we do, is really we synthesize populations. So without surveillance data, with publicly available generated data, diverse sources, research, census is a good place to start, but only a start. We look at subject matter experts. We pull together all different sources and types of information, and then we actually generate a living lab out of a population in an area. And this population is never identified but accurate. Sometimes there is hundreds of data points on each one of these synthetic individuals, so we can look at health, we can look at demographics, we can look at psychographics, and this really forms the basis of how we then ask our populations questions when we dial forward new scenarios, technology, policy, infrastructure, investment. Again, looking at synthetic individuals, we can inflect not only the way we act and exchange information and interact with systems that are in front of us today, but also we can ask those questions about systems or things they've never encountered in the future. And we can begin to say, what if? And I think these are really important steps that we take so that we can gain knowledge from those scenarios forward. And we can begin to answer, instead of be confounded by the unprecedented, we can begin to strike out and look at and take those risks that are needed to move forward quickly. Again, it's all about really the convergence of information, so very diverse sources, thinking about better futures. Where do we want to go? So there's, we require a lot of people to step into a room where they haven't been future thinkers before, and then build that quantifiable comparison between options that we have and investments that we're making, and understand the interconnects. A lot of that turns out to be, really profoundly related to not leaving anybody behind. So being able to see invisible populations and marginalized groups that haven't appeared in common data sources before. And this is a sample of what all is included in, and just a sample of what we have been modeling in the Edmonton Metropolitan Region. So everything from in our synthetic population today, as well as dialed forward to 2050, households, infrastructure, KPIs, land, the consumption of land as our city grows, how people are changing their energy behaviors, their water consumption, their waste, their household demographics are changing, so how people live is changing. And we've included all of those forecasts in what we have modeled to date. And now I have the privilege of introducing our newest member to the executive team, our COO, Caitlin Peterson, who is going to walk you through Chapter 2. She has been profoundly involved in modeling the region, and I really wanted her to get a chance to share with you some of the perspective that she has gained in the last year of working with RUNWITHIT. Kate? And I should say, now is a good time. I think I'm under the 10 minutes. We can take a couple questions now, if you like, before we start off with Caitlin. Does anybody have any burning questions, or do they want to wait a little bit longer for more information? Oh, there's a question at the back. So I think your question was about what do we mean by synthetic individuals? Yeah. So in the deep tech part of what we do, we actually run massive simulations where there are advanced AI-based entities that are synthetic individuals. They are attributed, they are reactive, responsive, they're context-aware, they learn from the things in front of them. We give them all kinds of attributes going in, the way they think, react, their preferences, their activities, who they live with, you know, what choices they have for transportation, how they consume, you know, and those entities actually, when we spin up these scenarios that our customers ask us for, and Caitlin will be talking more about that, we get to watch them. We can even survey them. So they're synthetic, and they can tell us how they feel, what they're experiencing, whether they have innies or outies or belly buttons, they'll tell us anything because they're synthetic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will, I'm not sure, I feel like, I'll try to yell as well as Myrna yelled. Can people hear me at the back? Okay, I'll yell more. All right. It's worth yelling about. We talk a lot at RUNWITHIT about knobs and levers. And what this slide illustrates is some of the knobs and levers that we've been manipulating specifically in the Edmonton region. And so we like to say at RUNWITHIT, we don't predict the future, but we can look at projections. So we can take sets of initial conditions, we can play them forward, we can manipulate those initial conditions, play those scenarios forward to create something of a digital sandbox that allows us to try out different scenarios, try out different decisions, and thereby to provide decision makers with some agency and a sense of confidence that they're making the correct decisions and going forward. So as Myrna said, I think I have to, oh, it's already playing. Brilliant. So as Myrna was telling you, we've done some work in the Edmonton metropolitan region, so Edmonton and then the surrounding municipalities. And specifically, one of the projects that we've been working on was taking the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board's growth plan, projecting forward to 2044, and looking at what Edmonton and the surrounding regions might look like in 2044, and specifically to take that growth plan and validate whether or not it will work. Will there be space for everyone? Will all the houses fit? What kind of houses can fit? What will life be like? What will consumption patterns be like? What will GHG emissions be like? If we play forward in the way that we have planned, will there be any unintended consequences? And so that's a lot of the work that we've been doing in the Edmonton metropolitan region, and looking at basically how we can take our population, play it forward to 2044, and look at what life will be like, what that population will need, and then what that population will bring to the region and how we can best accommodate it. Can we go forward? Okay. One of the factors that we've been looking at as well in Edmonton is questions around hydrogen and the future hydrogen economy, the hydrogen workforce. We looked at things like hydrogen blending. So one of the scenarios that we put forward was, well, what happened if we were to take all of the houses and use hydrogen blending for heating? What would that look like? What would the consequences be in terms of GHG emissions, sustainability, resilience? And so we can play that forward and look at factors like how old are the houses? What are their building envelopes like? How efficient are they? And what's going to happen if we put this forward and use hydrogen in our heating plans before it actually happens? So we can look at consequences, benefits, pitfalls, and how that will impact down to the individual level. As you can see, we've got these lovely little individual homes that we can provide measurements for. In addition to the actual homes and questions around hydrogen blending, we did a lot of work on hydrogen workforce. And in addition to hydrogen workforce, energy workforce more generally. So what will the energy workforce in 2050 look like? So we played forward oil and gas economy, we played forward the hydrogen economy, and we looked at how those two would intersect and what would ultimately become of the energy workforce in our region. And as it turns out, it will grow and thrive, and that will be awesome. We looked at the demographics of that workforce, where in the city they're located, and being able to look at where in the city people are located, what people are doing, what kind of jobs they have, what kind of needs they have in terms of transportation, resources, consumption. That allows us to better plan the built environment. So one of the beautiful things about our digital environment here, our synthetic environment, is that we can look at the interplay of who's there and what do they need. So going forward, we can sort of do that feedback loop of who's going to be there, what are they going to be doing, what are they going to need, who do we want to attract to the region, and what will they need, and what will keep them in the region. And so by being able to play through these scenarios, we can really create a picture of what a prosperous and thriving Edmonton region will look like over the next decades. Now, this is one of my favorite slides personally, because it helps me, who could not program herself into or out of a paper bag, to explain how our synthetics move. So Myrna described all of the different characteristics, or some of the different characteristics with which we can inflect our synthetics, but they can also move. They can drive, they can walk, they can interact with their environment in all manner of different ways. So the simplest way to explain how synthetics drive, and I'll preface that by saying this work was done in the context of an engagement where we looked at evacuation scenarios in a neighborhood in an Edmonton, or not Edmonton, an Alberta municipality that only had one way in and out of the municipality, and there was about 3,000 people that lived there. So if that main road was blocked, and for some reason the community needed to evacuate, well, then they had a problem. So it was ultimately their fire department that approached us and said, okay, we've got some infrastructure choices. We have a number of secondary egress options. They all come with different price tags, different construction intensities. We need to know which one is best. And so we said, all right, well, we can do synthetic evacuations. And so that's what we did. And we ran a number of scenarios where we cleared everyone out of the neighborhood using different evacuation routes, which of course had their different price tags and of course construction constraints. And we were able to show them which one was most effective. And happily, it was the cheapest option. So they were pleased with that. But interestingly, it was not the option that they thought it would be. So they came in with like, we're pretty sure it's this one. And we were able to show them that it wasn't in fact that one, but that it would save them some money. So they were happy with that in the end. But back to driving. So we were sort of faced with the challenge of, people are going to drive out of their neighborhood, and we need to synthesize this, and we need to do it accurately. So we did a ton of research into traffic behavior and evacuation scenarios. How do people drive when they're stressed? How do they behave at intersections? All manner of things. And we completely revamped our movement and mobility modeling, which was predicated on pedestrians, and we turned it into cars. And as it turns out, synthetics drive exactly how you would drive or I would drive. They leave with a notion of where they want to go. They know where their destination is, their bearing, their distance to their goal, and then they make a set of decisions. So they come to an intersection, they stop, and then they decide what the best course of action is until they come to another decision point where they stop and decide and continue to move on. And we've given each of our synthetics a field of vision, so they're actually able to see, which prevents them, of course, from bumping into one another, which is awesome. And and this field of vision is manipulable, so we can make it longer, we can make it shorter, we can make it wider, depending on how closely we want them to be able to follow one another, and all sorts of traffic factors that we can program into them. And this allows them to move through the scenarios that we set for them, and it allows us to see with realistic traffic behavior what each evacuation scenario would look like. And that was a pretty fun project to work on. So now we're on to chapter 3, but before I turn you back over to Myrna, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So do synthetics have vendor vendors? And really, a larger question is, what are some of the unpredictabilities that you can program into these scenarios? Like even at a macro level, like a earthquake or pandemic, or things that we might not necessarily show up.
I'm grinning like a fiend up here because we have modeled both pandemics and earthquakes. So we can toss pretty much any kind of speed bump into the mix.
And one of the things about synthetics is that that they are not like just programmed decision makers. So it's not like a traditional simulation. These are actual entities making decisions. And so you get emergent behavior, and that's one of the reasons why, and what we'll go into next, some of the scenarios that we get pulled into modeling is because that's where they need to see. They need to see those emergent behaviors and those cascades that happen, and to really be able to play those things through and generate the data from those scenarios.
But to answer that original question, yes, we could allow them to have fender benders. It's just in this particular case we didn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in my simulations, I found that people make irrational choices,
Yes.
and the synthetics make very consistent choices.
No,
So
they
how
don't.
That's the question.
Yes.
So how is it that you're allowing them to make irrational choices?
So, and that's one of the things about emergent behavior. So we can attribute the psychographics or the preferences or decision making in many ways, and we can layer those together. So we don't always know. People say, well, what's going to happen in some of these environments? And we say we surely don't know until we run it, until we actually look at and try to understand and generate the data from the synthetics to understand why they are doing what they're doing, what is rational and what isn't rational. And so when we modeled earthquakes, for example, there's all kinds of behavior that falls under the not rational behavior, but oftentimes there's compliance issues, there's freezing, there's stopping to help others, there is different motivators that we can give our synthetics that we can base on research, and we can implement those, and then we can watch what the synthetics do, and then that often cascades into the emergent behavior that we need to see.
Sorry to ask a second question, but you follow on, there's obviously road rage issues.
Yes.
And then there are obviously, how do you make a synthetic become irrational? What is it that I mean, I know time pressure forces people to make irrational choices. And so how are you, maybe it's a little deeper question to discuss at another time.
it depends on what's relevant. So it depends on what's relevant to our customer as well. So when they are looking at an earthquake, are they concerned about the marginal irrational actors? Maybe not. When they're looking at a scenario where there's a trucker's convoy or something that's a social unrest scenario or someplace where safety and security, are they looking at irrational actors? Absolutely. So it really depends on the context about, you know, what we focus in on and what we highlight in terms of that's relevant about psychological behavior and action. But we can add it or take it away.
Thank you.
So many questions.
So many questions. One more, and then maybe we'll have to move on to the next chapter, and we'll catch it after. So who's most urgent?
I don't
You
know.
are? Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool theme, you know, we call it run with it, but I believe in the future we should run from it, right?
There it
Yeah,
goes.
so
Yeah.
this is, my question is, you know, you're right now, you're just synthesizing the information, right? What if in the future, you form this future? You know, this is my question. When
Synthetic
you are right now,
entanglement.
you're synthesizing
Yeah.
the stuff, right?
We've
But in
talked
the
about it.
future, You might form the future. You know, this is my concern, right? As a person. as a-
So luckily, we consider ourselves a social impact company. We are women-led. We are a certified Aboriginal business. We have said no to many who have come to us with extraordinary propositions about the value that they could generate from nefarious futures.
So it happened.
And so that's part of why we haven't taken venture capital to this date as well, because we are trying to maintain that ability to control the futures that we are creating and make sure that they are futures that benefit all. And so that's one of the things. We've talked about synthetic entanglement. So, and in fact, we've kind of experienced some of it. Maybe I'll touch on here as we go forward in the scenarios we're being asked to model, and then how reality is you know, creeping closer and closer to some of those scenarios. So, but we don't control the future.
Yeah.
We give people a better chance at making it in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Caitlin. She's awesome. Dr. Caitlin Peterson started with us a year ago, and with a lot of questions in her mind about, you know, what it is we were doing and would she fit, and she just got promoted to COO, so she just kicks butt internationally. We're super happy. Yeah. So the third chapter is visibly better, and I think somebody was asking about earthquakes. Believe it or not, this is one of the first scenarios that we did with our Synthetic City platform, was the IoT World Expo keynote in Silicon Valley. And what you're looking at was on the 150-foot screen. It was an earthquake in Silicon Valley. And this was for a smart city technology company who wanted to look at how their devices and controls would operate in an earthquake, whether or not the data streams could be used for emergency response, whether or not the devices and controls that shut off high flow gas, shut off power, would actually save lives and change the impact on buildings, and then how they could be used for dynamic evacuation pathing, emergency communications, so they could get relevant communications to citizens. And so we kind of went all out. We had 3.5 weeks to synthesize the region, build entirely new models from the National Institute of Science and Technology based on the infrastructure, the underground infrastructure and critical infrastructure, place the devices as they would operate, and then synthesize the population and see if we could inflect the time to return to normal, the cardiac event rates that happen from stress levels 5 years out, you name it. So this was our first foundational synthetic city environment. We then get to do things like, this was in Phoenix and Tempe with the Electric Power Research Institute, where they said, let's get serious and let's validate this for synthetic data and synthetic modeling with your platform for all of the utilities in the US because they have a huge data problem. It's regulated environment. Their data is historical, inaccurate, incomplete. It's privacy protected, and yet they need to move forward and make sure our critical infrastructure is working for everybody. And so this was a huge experiment with us. They said not only was COVID starting, and they said, show us the future of movement and control orders with COVID, show us the changing energy behavior as people shift and they start, existing in their homes, but then make a heat event happen, turn the lights out, and tell us how that's going to impact the future of utilities and our engagement with our customers. And so it was a huge kind of experience in synthesizing everybody, synthesizing load curves, infrastructure, and then synthesizing psychographics as Synthetics experienced an outage. They used it to change repair priorities. They used it to look at and understand the willingness to pay in terms of reliability going forward, trust in your utility, and different ways they could inflect that in communications. So it was huge. And this was a little company called RUNWITHIT, who ended up at the Electric Power Research Institute. If you don't know, it's just, they're the research arm of 95% of the utilities in North America. And we made it out. In 12 weeks, we were validated in the utility industry. We made it out alive, I should say. We're great friends. And here tonight with us somewhere, although she might be on a call, because we also have a lot of conflicting things going on in market, is our head of US operations, our chief, Annie Haas, who comes to us directly from the Electric Power Research Institute. We've been working with her for 2 years and we hired her. So we're super excited. We get to decarbonize with our environments. So we extended it to all aspects of transportation, active micromobility, public transportation, and we get to tie transportation, amazingly enough, in places like Kuala Lumpur with the Toyota Mobility Foundation directly to benefit underrepresented groups, to benefit people who have challenges for economic access, who have challenges for educational access, who have challenges for health access, and we get to measure all of those things synthetically as we make changes to their transportation network. We get to remove barriers. So this was one of the fundamental things that we can do in synthetic environments, is do simple things like policy changes around lighting and security. Sorry, I have to take this call. No, I'm joking. It must be the CRA. But we get to remove barriers. So we get to really dial forward and look at the impact of these important changes that fall outside of transportation networks, like pedestrian safety, and measure that and use that as an ROI for making those decisions around transportation, inflect those environments, and see which synthetics make those choices in different neighborhoods, in different demographics, and different populations. And then we get to do some just astoundingly wild things as a team, and I think that's why we have such a passionate, talented group. We get a call from the National Science Foundation and the Convergence Hub for the Exploration of Space Science last year, and they say, hey, can you come and help us do some sun-to-grid tabletop scenarios where we're looking at coronal mass ejection events, which are like, the don't look up scenario but people really need to see it, the big boys do. And can we make sure that we have the right information from the space community and the space weather data community? So NASA, NOAA, SWPC, FEMA, NERC, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, everybody is giving us their models and data. Little run with it from Edmonton. And can you make that all spin in your holodeck? And can we see and run through those scenarios and look at vulnerable populations and look and try and understand whether or not we can mitigate those large and massive scale solar storms in time to save us all. So that keeps us going for a long time. And this is the team. So people say, what does your team look like? And it's like they look like us. Incredibly representative. They come from every aspect, a really diverse group of intensely curious, talented people who are future thinkers and willing to dig in and model and do this. We eat our value. We're not venture capital funded, so we have to deliver value every day, and it's hard. We have just a million different and growing specialists at our company that we're so proud to work with every day. And believe it or not, Edmonton, we win. Like this is our community. This is us. Are the educational institutions that have produced these amazing people. And we have stepped out onto an international stage and just been blessed by the reception, the validation, and the acclaim. And many of these we have worked so hard for. Almost all of these are the result of a massive effort on our team and a demonstration of our technology. So they're not just, little stickers as they may appear. And then here at home, so we also started really, to our surprise, winning a few things here at home. And these are almost the awards that mean the most to us because they're our hometown. And believe it or not, you guys are a hard-ass crowd. We had international success far before we had local acknowledgement or success. And so it means so much to us to be here tonight and to be able to share what we do with everybody and to inspire others. Because I had an MBA back in the day. I had a couple technology ventures, but I was a mom, I was a consultant, and I worked at a vet clinic, and now I'm here, and now I get to be here with the team. And so if I can do it, anybody can. And that, did anybody have any questions? That's the end of my kind of chapter. So we've been through synthetic thinking and convergence and augmentation, and then being able to dial forward, and just the breadth of when you can dial forward a city or a region. We've just touched on a few of the things that we can accomplish, but did anybody have any questions?
Perhaps if we could take the questions.
Okay, Gail's going to move us through. Okay, so the next portion, we can take questions after, or we can take them when we're networking. But the next portion is kind of a nod again to the community about those who are hiring in the community. We have been extraordinarily blessed to be a part of an amazing post-secondary community with talent from Canada and all places in Canada and around the world who come here to learn. And so we've done NSERC projects and MyTax projects, and we've worked with the Graduate Students Internship Program, and we worked with AWIP. But one of the most recent programs that we're working with is the Technology Alberta, the Jobs First program. And so I'm going to invite Gail, and I'm going to invite Gabe up to just chat a little bit about what that experience was like, and to inspire others if you're in the employer market, or if you're one of those people who are looking for a way to enter into this field with companies like ours, and there's so many others in Edmonton, to get a sense of what that's like.
Very good. Thank you so much, Myrna, and don't go too far. Remembering that the Aztec Awards, it was a lot of fun. Everyone was very excited. Everyone loved the awards part, but they also loved the networking part. So I'm going to do my best to keep things very short so that you can all get to networking. But as Myrna said, Technology Alberta has been touched at the community outreach, how the community has just stepped up during the time of COVID to give people jobs. And the tech sector was growing. And so it was just the beautiful mix of just pulling everyone together virtually. And I've had some great program managers throughout the years, including people from McEwen and more. And so with that, as Myrna said, RUNWITHIT has been part of that program. And I'm very pleased to introduce Gabe, who was the first job student for RUNWITHIT.
Hello everyone, it's wonderful to speak for you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that Alberta First Technologies provided. Alberta First is really building bridges that get young students and our young professionals engaged with the thriving tech community that is here in Edmonton. A lot of students that were in my year didn't know about what was at their disposal. So they're really building bridges, and my experience at RUNWITHIT has just been phenomenal.
And so, Gabe, you were not only a student with RunWithIt, now you work with them as a permanent employee, correct?
Yes, yes. I did a 4-month internship with RUNWITHIT through Alberta First Technologies, and I've since been onboarded. Now I help grease the wheels and change belts, helping our wonderful team and key resources get their time most efficient.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So Gabe and many other people will be available for questions. The First Jobs program has already helped 300 people get jobs in the tech sector, and there's still opportunity to help more. Through the provincial and federal governments, we have funding for 500 jobs, and we're very pleased to see that. So next, many of you were at the Aztec Awards. Some of you just missed it by that much. And in fact, 2 people that fit that category are Myrna and Dean Bittner, who, yes, they won an award, but they didn't make it to the event. So this is their chance to receive the award in person, and for Dean to say a few words on behalf of RunWithIt. So everyone, please help me congratulate.
Thanks so much, Gail. A big honor to win the award. We'll see who gets to hang this up. Curry and Tharakian accepted the award for me. We were stuck in some airport somewhere. We were trying to figure out where we were coming from or going to, and we desperately tried to make it here on time to receive the award. And for me, it's been I'm a bit older, so it's been a bit of a longer journey. But it's always nice to get some recognition, I think, from the community of peers that I've grown up with here. It's been a great city to learn about AI and ML and to apply that. So many great people gave us opportunities to do things. I'm looking at them, they know who they are. And for me, a real mountain of code that I've been able to work with Myrna and now this incredible team of so talented people, and our customers also. So accomplished people, and we're all working so hard to save the planet. And it's just been a really great honor. Lots of people in the community phoning me up and wanting new conversations about what it is we do and how we work together. And Tim Carwell's at the back, and we talk about communities of giving and creating communities of success. And there's many people in the local community who are willing to be better together and to see what we can accomplish by working together. And we're always open. We make room. We are always open to collaborations and doing things better together. And so thank you so much for the award. And on behalf of the team who does incredible work, thank you.
Excellent. And I know, Myrna, you had a chance to speak today, but not necessarily on the award. Anything else to add?
I think I talk a lot, but I think this was a really meaningful award for us because of the advanced AI community that we exist in and that we find ourselves here in Edmonton. So winning this award had particular meaning for us. We have always been on the application side of AI, and sometimes that gets a little bit distant from the academic pursuit of AI, but I think these worlds are beginning to collide and combine, and we're beginning to find ways to make sure that all of that is put to good use, and so really wonderful to be on the receiving end of this award. Thank you, Gail. And we were stuck in Boston. They canceled our flights, so we were really sad.
All right, thank you very much. So Myrna, RunWithIt, has inspired this series of monthly events, entrepreneur-led, community-driven events. And how we worked together to do this was getting some other entrepreneurs involved. So I would like to ask Ali of You May Care to come up and talk a little bit about the door prize, or I'll say the survey prize that he has helped sponsor. as well as Ken Batista with Public Food Hub, because that is our caterer of choice, and he actually has a outstanding story. Now, Ken, I didn't warn him that I just warned him, so he may actually have be ready to talk to you over in the lounge area. We'll see how that goes. But please do help me welcome Ali of You May Care to talk about rest.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I'm the founder of You May, and we help people recover from screen time, basically with a wake up and wind down routine called rest. And the reason we built this is because we spend literally all of our waking hours in front of screens, and it's become the leading cause of dry eye, but it's also associated with our mental health and our sleep quality. And so last year we completed a pilot study with 500 people that transitioned from working in the office to working from home and monitored their sleep, their mental health, and also their eye health. And we saw very strong improvements that led us to an opportunity to pitching on Dragon's Den on the season premiere, which turned out into us getting a deal. And now we have a patent, and we're excited to kind of keep this momentum going and looking to build our team. And so we're hiring for head of growth, head of product, and all of the associated positions with that. And so I'd like to thank Gail and Technology Alberta, because we've participated in the jobs program. I'd like to thank Myrna for showing what a successful company looks like after so much work, and we aspire to become like, and everyone for attending. So thank you so much.
And our next entrepreneur is the famous Ken Batista, which serial entrepreneur and our caterer today. Please welcome him.
Hi. Hi. Gail's just putting me on the spot. When New Startup is all about bringing food to help sort of like bring community together. So, it's really exciting to sort of see, more of these things kind of continuing on, and really is just, really seeing the community evolve and lots of new things kind of happening. At the Public, we're really about sort of like, exposing local food entrepreneurs who are startups in their own right, trying to sort of grow those companies from here, but being able to sort of tap into your own backyard, in terms of food lovers and food makers, and being able to, really experience and discover different things that are happening. So tonight we were featuring probably about 4 or 5 different food brands, all from the Edmonton area. And so, I think gather, enjoy, and thanks for having us.
And I just want to say, Ken, a special thanks from RUNWITHIT, because we actually started at the Mercer with Startup Edmonton that Ken was also instrumental in founding, and it was a great place to be and to think about what the future was going to be like for our company. There's more spaces like that opening up, we hope, soon with Edmonton Unlimited, and but just a profound welcoming place in our journey. So thanks, Ken, and here we are now together again.
Excellent. Thank you, Myrna. And a great segue, because I'd like to welcome Catherine Warren on stage to talk about Edgy and Edmonton Unlimited.
Hello. I am Catherine Warren, and I lead Edmonton's Municipal Innovation Authority. We are Edmonton Unlimited, and we focus on positioning Edmonton as an inclusive global innovation capital, as a city of innovators tackling these great global challenges. Myrna has talked about a number of these, but they might include things like the climate emergency, public health, food security, digital inclusion, reconciliation, areas where Edmonton has tremendous bench strength and where international markets have a need for what we do, and where enlightened investors want to put their capital. Myrna, you mentioned that this audience and Edmonton in general is a tough crowd. I like to think of it as tough love. You are keeping us accountable as the Innovation Authority, and as part of that work, in the past year, we have supported more than 2,600 entrepreneurs through programs from Business 101 all the way through to acceleration. These are programs supported through our Accelerator Fund. And then in addition, we have also made best efforts to map Edmonton's leadership in innovation, and we now have, through our EDGI platform that was on the screen just a moment ago, mapped more than 2,000 innovative companies and services in support of local innovation. And this is a platform that every single one of us in this room can enter our data on. We can describe our innovation, our unique leadership in this area, and then also map to opportunities for investment, for strategic partnerships, for international public speaking and awards. So we encourage all of you to look up EDGI, which stands for Edmonton's Greatest Innovations, and to participate in placing your institution, your company, your nonprofit on the map. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. I'll skip forward. I think I had the slides in the wrong order. Here's a bunch of other award winners, one of which is sitting at the very top in the very middle. I can see you, Tim Carwell. But that's really the way I wanted to end this. So, you know, part of growing a successful company is being a part of a successful community. And part of that success is in giving. So there's a few here tonight who have really inspired us in how they amplify goodness. I mean, beyond Gail. and the organization that she stirs, and Catherine and many others that are here. But with particular kind of shout out from my company, there was that huge list at the very beginning of our supporters and the people who have been involved in us as agencies. Tim Carwell is the president and CEO of a company called ComAlert, and had developed a very unique impact program in Edmonton he called Goodwill Impact Project. And it was to offer a space that he had a lease on that wasn't expiring and that was vacant, and give us the opportunity to move in and make the most out of every single one of those hard-fought dollars that we had to hire people and make an impact, not only in the people that we hired in the region, but also in the work that we do for disadvantaged communities around the world. So Tim, thank you on behalf of the amazing team who is just filling that space with goodness and amazing a hackathon tomorrow for the United Way. Thank you, and I see you. But a part of that is also goodness grows and sharing that success. The rainforest inspired me early on, and James Kierstead is here. He's one of the founders of the Edmonton portion, with that idea of that somebody gives you an hour and you give somebody else two. So it's kind of that ability to, that as a community we are better the more we share, and the more we really take that on to be a part of that amplification in the community. And as a part of that, we are going to pass the baton, and you can talk to Tim after because he's hiding up there. But we are going to pass the baton, and we are going to work together for the next event, and to try to focus it on growing this goodness as a community and an innovation showcase. We have a couple dates in mind, so February 16th and then Pi Day, which happens to be RUNWITHIT's birthday. So we'll be celebrating then anyways. But thank you all so very, very much for coming. There are some inspiring entrepreneurs in the house. Levin Electronics, Alta ML, I'm not sure if there's people from Jobber. I didn't get to see all of the list of registration, but Health Gauge and Randy Duguay and Yume. So there's many inspiring entrepreneurs here, and I hope that you enjoy the food that is also provided by inspiring entrepreneurs, and have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much for coming out in January. I'm not sure when the hockey game's starting, but if you have to run, we'll understand. If not, enjoy, and thank you very much for coming tonight.